Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning into today's webinar titled What Marketers Need to Know About 2024 CTV Advertiser Priorities. 2024 is a banner year for advertising, and CTV is reaping the benefits, attracting more ad dollars and seeing a rise in investment and optimism. Today, we will be unpacking insights from a custom research study done by our valued member Premion, who in partnership with Advertiser Perceptions examined the state of CTV advertising and advertisers. I'm joined today by Lindsay Aiello, Director of Sales Enablement at Premion, who will be taking us through the report findings, help us understand why these insights matter, and how you can make the most of your streaming investments in 2024 and beyond. You can download the report on Premium's website and also by clicking on the pop-ups in the lower left-hand corner of the screen throughout today's discussion. So without further ado, hi, Lindsay.
Hi, it's nice to see you.
Describe your role at Premion's perspective in the marketplace, and to spark some fun, as we're about to officially kick off the fall season, share your favorite fall activity.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Okay. So I'm Lindsay Aiello, Director of Sales Enablement for Premion, as you mentioned. I'll start with favorite fall activity because that's an easier one. I would love to say that I love to go on long hikes in the pretty weather and the changing leaves, but where I live in Texas, we don't really have that. So I would say just a long run when it gets below 90 degrees, and then some, baking with my kids and football would probably be my favorite. Let's see. Okay, so I work for Premion, which is a CTV OTT company. We were really pioneers in the space. We've been doing this since 2016, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't seem like that long, but it is a long time in this space. We've been doing it since the beginning. We really saw the shift in streaming early, and, as pioneers, just really invested significantly in building our CTV platform. And we prioritize, cutting edge data and technology. And we really specialize in understanding unique local characteristics and viewer trends and the power of local relevance. And then as far as my role as Director of Sales Enablement, I really just help the sellers in our company think about how to help marketers understand everything that's happening and how to navigate not just the CTV space, but marketing in general.
That's awesome. Who's your football team, by the way?
Okay, so I used to work for the Texans for 13 years, so I have to go with the Texans. Used to be a huge Colts fan, so I'll throw them in as well.
Nice. Yeah. All right, so to help set the stage, Premion conducted a custom research study with Advertiser Perceptions to understand key topics, trends, strategies, and goals for the current CTV ecosystem. Can you provide an overview of the study, including the genesis and its focus?
Sure. So we've partnered with Advertiser Perceptions for our third annual Voice of the Customer study. It's where we really dig deep to uncover the concerns and the priorities of marketers and agencies around CTV sentiment, and also just their spending and strategic imperatives for 2024. And of course, these insights, along with our own on the ground in the trenches intel with our advertisers, allows us to really understand what is a priority and a question mark for advertisers right now. In terms of methodology, this was an anonymous online survey given to 150 ad agency or brand side marketing professionals. And the qualifications were that they are involved in the decision-making around marketing and advertising, and that they do purchase CTV or OTT, and that they spend, they're US-based advertisers spending at least $250,000 annually. So those are the people that that were a part of the study.
Excellent. All right, let's dive right into the results. So the study shows that 69% of CTV advertisers considered CTV the most important / valuable media type for achieving advertising goals in 2023. For additional context, social media ranked second at 43%, followed by linear TV, 35%. What features and capabilities of CTV enable it to rank so high?
So, I think that, well, I'll tell you, on all of these answers, I'll kind of give you my perspective along with, what the study told us. I think kind of combining both of those things in this case, CTV really provides that immersive viewing experience that has always worked so well and has been so powerful about TV. And then, of course, it combines that with the really advanced targeting capabilities that digital offers and that advertisers have always seen a lot of value in the digital space. So The study said this, and again, with our own experience, says that kind of combination of sort of those features that have been so beneficial within TV and within the digital space brought together is really where people are finding so much value in CTV. And then, of course, along with the advancements in measurement capabilities to really understand performance outcomes and the learnings associated with those to be able to optimize campaigns.
Fantastic. And these results certainly are not mutually exclusive, and understanding modern viewing behaviors are fragmented and converge or becoming even more converged. Would you agree that linear TV and CTV are complementary to one another?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've done a lot of research on this as well, both, again, through the study, through other, pieces of research that we've done, and then through our own performance data. So yes, absolutely believe they're very complementary to each other. And I think that's because, and this is a topic I could talk a lot about, but again, they both bring that really, the powerful attributes of being able to tell a story and connect with an audience in that immersive big screen experience, but they also leverage unique strengths of each as well. When you think about linear TV and you have that really broad reach for the really cost efficient, low cost per thousands to reach a large audience, and then combine that with the advanced targeting capabilities of CTV, but again, bringing both to the big screen, they really, what we've seen in performance measurement is that they perform very similarly in terms of, things like cost per visit for a client and other, important KPIs, but they go about it a different way. So again, they're leveraging unique strengths to bring the best together for the advertisers.
Great. And understanding that importance of CTV to achieve advertising goals, the study inquired on how that impacts spending behaviors. So just a few stats: 61% of CTV advertisers will be increasing their CTV spending in 2024. Nearly 3/4 are reallocating their budgets from digital, social, and linear TV to fund the increased spend. And then on top of that, just over a quarter are shifting from social platforms. So what did the study tell you about why the advertisers are increasing their CTV spending?
Sure. So as you said, 3 out of 5 advertisers, so 61%, said that they're using CTV, or of those using CTV said that they will increase their budgets. And that's an average increase of 21%. And I will read some numbers here because I want to make sure I capture these accurately for you in terms of the why behind that the study told us. And so they said that the increase is driven really by 3 key factors. The first is achieving full funnel objectives, which I think you and I'll probably talk and dive into a little bit more and what that means and the value there. So 41% said that was part of the why for increasing the budget. And then very close to that, 40% said that reaching an engaged opt-in audience was part of why they were increasing CTV spend. And then precise audience targeting at 38% was the third highest reason cited for why they're increasing spend in CTV.
Great. Yeah, we're definitely going to unpack that a bit more as we go along. So with that in mind, I'd like to explore the purchasing processes. So we know that spending is increasing, but getting more into the how. And so just for a little bit of context, a June 2024 eMarketer report states that CTV is responsible for most of the overall growth in programmatic ad spending, accounting for 3/4 of new programmatic ad dollars in the next 2 years. And while mobile still dominates overall programmatic spend, CTV is growing quicker, 15% versus 12% respectively. So with these stats and trends in mind, what did the study reveal about the role of programmatic in buying CTV?
Okay, so the study found that 50% of all CTV and OTT advertising is expected to be purchased programmatically in 2024. So I think for all of those, for all of us in the industry, it is not a surprise. We've seen that increase over and over again. And we expect we will continue to see that. One thing I will say, again, just our client experience, we're seeing some of both. So we're seeing a lot of advertisers who are moving into programmatic. We are also seeing other advertisers who moved into programmatic and then are now moving a little bit back into managed service, or we are seeing a lot of advertisers use a multifaceted approach where they're utilizing both. They are buying some programmatically and some through managed service. And I think what's key for marketers to think about, again, we will continue to see that buyer preference is a big factor, right? And we have to be paying attention to what the preferences of those are and be able to accommodate all of them. But I think for the marketer, what's key to remember is regardless of how you buy, there are things that you always want to look for. For example, not all inventory is created equally. And I think you really want to understand exactly where you're getting your inventory from and what that inventory is, and is it premium or not, which I'm sure we'll kind of dive into what we mean by premium inventory. But you really want to just understand what it is that you're getting, regardless of how you buy. And I think as long as you are able to understand that, you have a good partner to provide that for you, then either way of buying is great and will continue to evolve.
That's a great point. And I like how you bring up how the evolution and thinking about that more from an internal team standpoint, taking into consideration the convergence that we were alluding to before, in addition to these trends and optionality that exists in the marketplace. Through the research that you conducted with Advertiser Perceptions, are we seeing a similar convergence or a similar evolution occur in the buying model? Or with the budget controls as CTV evolves?
We are, and this has been interesting as well, because again, I think historically we saw that CTV was, I would say, most often purchased by digital teams. It was really kind of kept in that silo, if you will. And the study told us that has really shifted quite a lot. So 56% of respondents said that an integrated or hybrid buying team is responsible for purchasing their CTV or OTT today, with 30% being purchased by digital teams, and I think 13% by linear teams. So, I think that this shows that people are looking at their total strategy more holistically and more comprehensively, cohesively, and how it all comes together, which of course makes a lot of sense. And I think we'll continue to see more of that.
Yeah, I agree. And so much of what we hear today is really meeting the consumer where they are. The consumer's not going on thinking about which screen do I want to watch, but really it's more about the content. So having the buying teams model that makes a lot of sense. So good adjustment to be seen.
Yeah.
Shifting gears a bit into measurement, we all know how incredibly important measurement is to the ad ecosystem. It is the cornerstone for each step in the campaign lifecycle, not just counting, but planning, targeting, outcomes, et cetera. And you touched on this a little bit before in terms of the targeting capabilities, but your research notes that precision targeting tops the list of CTV advertising benefits at 39%. Can you speak to the specific targeting capabilities leveraged by advertisers?
Sure. So again, it's another area that, like everything in the space, it has evolved so much and will continue to. So I think most advertisers, of course, know by now and are going well beyond targeting by geo and demo and behavior. And there are so much advancements in what the targeting can be. So I'll kind of touch on that a little bit, and I'll give some kind of takeaways, I think, for advertisers to think about around targeting specifically. But almost every industry now has the ability to dive deeper, to find intenders in that industry and find really advanced personas around buyers that are broader than just intent to purchase, but really looking at the attributes and the behaviors of somebody who is likely to purchase, and then creating these really robust lookalike audiences, if you will, but so much more sophisticated than lookalike targeting of the past, to really find the right audiences for people. And so I think, some things we're seeing for advertisers that I think are important for marketers to think about is, first, even though these advancements have been made and you can be very, very hyper-targeted, it's not always best to be that targeted or to only be that targeted, meaning sometimes we're seeing a lot of success when you kind of take one step back from the really hyper-targeted audiences and look a little bit broader. So as an example, we work with a mattress company that we've worked with for many years. They find more success targeting people interested in health and fitness than in mattress intenders. And I think there are multiple reasons for that. And some of that is being able to influence people who care about what it is that they offer before they've sort of already decided the way they want to purchase, in this case, a mattress. So there's a lot to think about there in that sort of consideration phase, that you can, that you can affect people with the right target audience before they're even in that kind of hyper targeted stage. A lot of benefit there, but maybe not the only place to find benefit. And then along those same lines, we really, I encourage advertisers to utilize more than one audience. I think that if you hopefully have a partner that has advanced measurement capabilities, you can really see how any audience that you're utilizing is performing for you and how they're working together to drive the performance outcomes that you're looking for. So I think utilizing more than one audience to see what those unique differences are can be really helpful. And then the last thing, I think it's really helpful to ensure that data, when you're working with a partner with advanced targeting, you just want to ensure that the data is refreshed regularly. I think it's fairly standard now that a lot of the big data providers in the space do refresh their data often, but sometimes the partners that you work with can also refresh data on top of that, just to ensure that, for example, if you are looking for a very hyper-targeted intender audience, once somebody has made a purchase and they move out of that, you want to make sure that you are that data is moving out. So you're always capturing that flow of intenders and ensuring that you're hitting that audience that you're really looking for. So those are a couple of things I think just to think about as we think about advancements in targeting and how advertisers can think about it and ask questions around it.
Yeah, I love how you touched on that mattress example too, because consumers are so multifaceted, right? They're not one-dimensional. So if you think about somebody very into health and fitness, of course, you need to sleep well. So it makes sense to meet them where their needs are, that may not be so obvious. And I also love how you really focus on the intent and the consideration, because at VAB, we're really focused on proving the value of premium multi-screen TV through the mid-funnel. And our research finds that oftentimes the focus is on upper or lower funnel metrics for proving the efficacy of a campaign. However, there's incredible value in TV for driving that intent and consideration. And I feel like we saw that in some of your research too. And as you alluded to earlier, the report highlights that 41% of CTV advertisers are increasing their CTV ad spend given the ability to achieve full funnel objectives. So really, I like how you were able to tie all that in and really deliver how CTV can drive those results for mid-funnel. In addition to the importance of measurement, certainly brand safety is critical for modern day advertising and has been top of marketer minds to ensure ads are in place are in secure environments. In fact, we always say a brand's reputation is one of the most valuable assets. What did your study uncover about brand safety, specifically for CTV ad planning and strategy development?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin there. I'm going to remember that you asked me about brand safety. I want to go back to actually something you said, though, just kind of piggybacking on the mid-funnel piece. So before I forget that, I think the other thing I would add, because you're right, it is a unique aspect, I think, of CTV by being able to target people who can be in that consideration phase, like we did talk about with the mattress example, because you're right, that's a great example of hitting people in that mid-funnel phase. But I think a few other things to think about there that can be helpful for marketers are, what measurement KPIs can help them understand what's happening in that mid-funnel, which again, the measurement abilities now allow you to see that. So a couple of examples, I think many people offer attribution solutions where you can analyze website visits, which is a great, I think most people consider that a good mid-funnel KPI to analyze. But something else to think about is, things like brand lift studies. And that's where, you're able to really analyze that consideration of, people who see your message compared to people who don't. What is that increase in their consideration for your brand and the increase in their intent to purchase for the brand? So I think, things like that, those unique measures measurement solutions that are now offered in CTV allow advertisers to really understand what's happening in that mid-funnel, and then they can make decisions on how then that can affect how they move people into the lower funnel or move people from awareness into that mid-funnel. So I think just understanding those capabilities around measurement are super important. Brand safety, you asked me about brand safety also. So of course, brand safety is more important than ever, especially in the age of AI. And we're seeing this more and more. And it's always been important to advertisers and brands, but it continues to be such an important talking point, and not just talking point, but component to understand about your advertising campaigns. So in the study, we found that advertisers prioritize premium video content. 89% of respondents said that they prioritize premium video content. 84% said they prioritize ad fraud prevention, and 83% highlighted brand safety as something that they really emphasize in their strategic planning. And of course, this is, again, something we're seeing over and over. And so I think as we think about, premium content, it's important to understand what that means, how that affects your campaign. And really, advertisers should just work with trusted providers committed to brand safety and look at or look for the tag brand safety certifications against ad fraud. Those seals of approval are really important just to ensure that the advertisers are getting what they think they're getting in terms of brand safety protection.
Yeah, it all goes back to being transparent, right? Knowing what you're purchasing, having confidence in that, and then in the end result, getting that clear reading as well to provide that validation and confirmation. So transparency is key. And I think that that's the perfect example of what you just talked through. Double clicking into brand safety and the critical nature of the content that the ads are placed in. Love what you were saying about premium content, great stats that you were sharing. Can you share how it impacts investment goals and ROI?
Sure. Okay, so again, I'll give you a few numbers here. So 83% of CTV and OTT advertisers believe that CTV's value is greater than or equal to that of primetime TV, which is an interesting, shift in perceptions over time. And then 97% of CTV OTT advertisers agree that advertising on premium video content improves ROI performance goals. I think one thing that's important to think about here is how do we define premium? And I think that can make a big difference. So for us, and for me specifically, I'll speak for myself, the way I think about premium content is content that is really more likely to be engaged with on top of the brand safety certification around that content, but it's content that is viewed, not passively viewed, meaning it's not content on screen that people are not engaging with in the same way they would in a traditional, long form, high quality, programmatic movies, that type of content. So I think that, and I said programmatic, I mean episodic content, that type of content, more than the passively consumed content, that can make a really big difference for advertisers in the success of that campaign. Because content that is on the screen, but not engaged with in the same way, it's just not going to drive the same ROI for a brand on that advertising spend.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's that engagement, lean in, emotion that is derived from those episodic titles. So I love that. So we've seen through your report that CTV offers amazing capabilities and efficiency for advertisers, but it's innately imperfect, right? We wish it was. But what are some notable challenges that your research unveiled? And immediate follow-up question is, what opportunities do those challenges prompt?
Yeah, it's interesting. And you're right. I'm so glad we're talking about challenges, because I do feel like it's really important to understand. And this is where people really struggle, to think about these pieces of it. So when it comes to challenges, what we found in the study is that people cited transparency. You mentioned transparency a moment ago. Transparency on where ads are running. 39% of people highlighted that as the top challenge. And then fragmentation at 39%. So those are equal. And frequency management at 37%. So those ranked as the top three concerns. And it's interesting because I feel like those last two, this concept of fragmentation and frequency management, sort of compete with each other a little bit. There's another stat that I found really interesting in the study, and that said that 97% of advertisers work with more than one CTV or OTT provider, with 40% using an average of 5+ providers on a typical campaign. So to that second part of your question around opportunities, I think those challenges, this fragmentation, because the audience is so fragmented, we're seeing that people are buying in a lot of places, trying to make sure they're maximizing their audience and capturing everybody. But then that does make it really hard to manage frequency and performance efficiencies and understand how it's all coming together and that there isn't duplication and redundancy in their buying strategy. So I think the opportunity is just to understand, or one opportunity is to understand, if you really need that many partners, and there are partners out there now that really offer that reach and scale across the ecosystem, where you don't have to go to as many providers as you may have in the past to reach that full audience and maximize that. And then again, you can manage the frequency and other pieces of performance that way as well. On transparency, I will just say that, we see lots of different things related to this. And I think as long as, an advertiser is getting to see, as deep as they can into where their ads are running, meaning we have at times seen where people provide the device level, but not the content necessarily, or we've seen where some, and certainly not highlighting anybody within this, but some people provide genre, but not the networks or even, more specifics around where that content is. So I think just, making sure that your partner is able to provide as much transparency as possible to understand where your ad is running and then carry that through into your performance is really critical.
Yeah, and that's where really the collaboration comes into play too, and make sure that you're setting those expectations up front. And to your point, building that partnership, building that relationship so that you get exactly what you need throughout, and there's no surprises. All right, we have time for one more question. What is one final takeaway you want to leave the audience with today?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. This goes so fast. It's complicated. It is complicated. There's still so many questions for advertisers to navigate. I think, if CTV is not part of your buying strategy, it should be. Through research we have with MRI Simmons, we see that 41% of US households are only reachable on streaming TV. So I think at a minimum, if it isn't part of your strategy, just to make sure you're maximizing your reach across TV or across advertising in general, CTV should absolutely be in the mix for you. And then, again, like we said earlier, it's such a great complement to broadcast, to linear TV, and again, maximizing your reach across a total TV strategy. And then just as we've talked about, ensure that you have a partner who can provide that transparency into what you're running. It's premium content regardless of how you choose to buy, and you have really good performance measurement so you can optimize your strategy as you continue. Fantastic. Well, Lindsay, thank you for your invaluable insights and takeaways that you shared with us today. That is all the time we have, but don't forget to download a copy of the report and take care. Thank you, everybody.